My dear brothers and sisters in Islam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in this verse of the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, He unveils a great secret between Allah and His creation. He says, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. SubhanAllah. If we just reflect on the beauty of this verse, and if we reflect on the power of this verse, then our hearts will not be able to contain the secrets in this verse. Who is addressing the creation here? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the creator of everything. He is saying, فَاذْكُرُونِي. He's saying, remember me, أَذْكُرْكُمْ, I will remember you. Allahu Akbar. Of course, it is the right of the servants that we have to remember the Lord. The servants must remember the Creator. Right? The servants, the master has more rights over the creation. The master must be served, the master must be remembered, the master must be obeyed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But when Allah is saying, أَذْكُرْكُمْ, I will remember you. Allahu Akbar. This is a divine gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a divine mercy from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Who are we? What are we? We come from non-existence. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, remember me and I will remember you. And in another hadith, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam explains this in detail. In the hadith al-Qudsi, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, if a servant remembers me to himself, I remember him to myself. If a servant remembers me in a gathering, I remember that servant in a gathering better than that. Amongst the angels and amongst the celestial beings, in the highest of levels of heaven, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will mention and remember us. SubhanAllah. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the hadith, I am as my servant thinks of me. What does that mean? That we should have husnul dhan with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We should have a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That He will forgive us, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepts our dua, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants khair for us. We have to have this husnul dhan, this good opinion, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will deal with us in that way. This is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saying, I am as my servant thinks of me. So if we think of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in a negative way, then how are we preparing ourselves to receive the divine mercies of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? But if we have a husnul dhan, a good opinion of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and of His dealings with His creation, and of His dealings with us, then we would follow the verse, فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, remember me and I will remember you. وَاشْكُرُوا لِي, and give thanks to me, وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. And do not deny the favors of Allah. Because denying the favors of Allah is also a form of kufr. As in another verse, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, لَإِن شَكَرْتُمْ لَأَزِيدَنَّكُمْ وَلَإِن كَفَرْتُمْ إِنَّ عَذَابِي لَشَدِيدٌ. That if you give thanks, if you give shukr, I will increase you. أَزِيدَنَّكُمْ, I will increase you in that blessing. If you give shukr for iman, Allah will increase you. He will increase the strength of your iman. If you give shukr for the Prophet ﷺ and for his love, Allah inshallah will increase you in that. If you give shukr for any blessing, Allah will increase you in that blessing, inshallah. But the opposite of that is kufr. Kufr also means disbelief. Iman and kufr, they're opposites. But also shukr and kufr, yani kufran and ni'mah. That means denying the favors of Allah. You know that Allah has bestowed you with His favors, but no, you say it's from me. This is kufr. This is also a form of kufr. And this is such a form of kufr that is prevalent in society today. People have forgotten where the favors are coming from. People have forgotten the source, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They don't remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala anymore. They have inserted ana in the equation. Ana, I. They have inserted that in the equation. I provide for my family. I help my family. I do this. I do that. I do this. But indeed it is actually Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who is controlling everything. Nothing can move even an inch if it's not from the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that He gives His servants tawfiq to do good things. And He gives His servants protection from bad things. This is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Everything is from Him. Wallahu ala kulli shay'in qadeer. وَاللَّهُ بِكُلِّ شَيْءٍ عَلِيمٌ. Allah has power over everything. He has knowledge of everything, subhanahu wa ta'ala. So we should always be in a state of remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whether it be physically with our tongues, as the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, keep your tongues moist with the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Or whether it be with the heart, which is the greater form of dhikr, that your concentration and your full focus is on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and remembering Allah and His beloved Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. What happens is when we don't remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then shaitan and his forces, they try to fill those gaps and that vacuum and that void with something which is detrimental to our iman, with something which is something which could destroy our iman, something which would waste our time, that we neglect Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we forget our salah, we forget the Quran, we forget the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Allah protect us from such a state. But this is what shaitan wants. He wants our days and nights to go by where we don't remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He wants our days and nights to go by where we don't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We don't remember the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. We don't seek knowledge. This is what shaitan wants. He just wants things to go until time of death comes and that person is like an animal. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from that. And one of the greatest tools that the shaitan is using, and you can say Akhir al-Zaman, the fitna of Akhir al-Zaman, and you can say the preparations for Dajjal, the Antichrist, which are, we can see them happening throughout the world. And the Prophet ﷺ already said in his time to beware of these fitna, to beware of the fitna of Akhir al-Zaman and the fitna of Dajjal, and to protect yourselves. And one of the things that he told us to do is recite Surah Al-Kahf on every Friday. If we cannot recite the whole thing, at least recite the first 10 ayahs, the last 10 ayahs. Or at least memorize the first 10 ayahs and the last 10 ayahs. In some narrations, he even said, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, if you can't even do that much, the first 5 ayahs, the last 5 ayahs, right? So as a protection from the fitna, from the trials of Akhir al-Zaman, and from the Dajjal, which is the greatest fitna, which will come before the Day of Judgment. So what are the tools? One of the greatest tools that he uses is the media. Is the media and social media. Because the media, what it does is it manipulates the mind. It manipulates the mind of the person. For example, Alhamdulillah, I'm giving my example not because, I think I'm something, but I'm just giving an example because I know of my own experiences, or of my time. When Alhamdulillah, when we were doing the memorization of the Quran, this was in 2001. So Alhamdulillah, I memorized when I was 12 years old. And I'm just saying this because I want to compare to today's society, okay? And we barely had we didn't have smartphones for sure. There was no such thing as a smartphone at that time. For those of us who know, 2001, you know what I'm talking about, okay? Very few people had internet. And if they did have internet, they had it on one desktop in their home, on one computer, which was in one main room, which was watched by the whole family. The child would go on that computer, the father and mother would know what the child is watching. It would be monitored. And if there was internet, then obviously there would be certain protection on the internet so the child is not going to websites which are inappropriate. So it was very well secured and monitored. So Alhamdulillah, me and my colleagues were able to memorize the Quran in that atmosphere. And our play or our physical enjoyment was through playing outside. It wasn't through watching movies and this and that. I mean, there were movies and stuff like that, but most of our activity was not in front of a screen. The activity was outside. Go outside and play with your friends. Alhamdulillah. So in that society, you would see people finishing the Quran in no time. 1 year, maximum 2 years. Every 1-2 years, people are memorizing the Quran. They're memorizing hadith. Why? Because there is safa in the heart. Because these things are distractions. My dear brothers and sisters, these things are distractions. Now, I went to the madrasa where I learned just on the weekend, because there was janazah. My grandmother had passed away. Make dua for her, inshallah. And we go for all our relatives who have passed away. Allah raise their darajat. And I went to the masjid in Scarborough where I did my hifz al-Quran. And I saw my old teacher who taught me the Quran. And I said, Ya Ustad, how are the students these days? How are the students treating you? Are they memorizing their Quran properly? Are they reciting? How are they compared to our years, right? When we were doing it with you. He said, don't ask me. He said, it's a very terrible state. He said, there's no concentration anymore. The students cannot concentrate. They cannot absorb the Quran. Why? He told me one reason, because of the phone. Because of social media, because of the smartphone. So that society, you had one maybe computer in the home that was monitored, then came a time when the laptops came. I'm not saying these are evil things. I'm saying I cannot say they're fully 100% evil. But I can say, according to research and study, that the evil in them is more than the good. They can be used for good, but it takes a very strong person to use it just for good. You have to control your nafs. And even the adults, even us adults, we slip up. And we might be doing something, we try to stay focused, but no, another video comes, this thing comes. By the time we wanted to do something in half an hour, it takes us 2.5 hours now. Because that's how it works, right? You get distracted. This is the tool that Shaitan and Dajjal are using to distract people. So the Ustad, he said, they cannot concentrate, they don't, they can't memorize the Quran properly, and the worst thing is they don't care anymore. Illa masha'Allah, there are a few people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala blesses, but the general, he was saying, generally there is no care anymore. They don't memorize, and then they don't have any remorse. They don't have any afsos that I cannot do it. It's like this is known as desensitization. This is a study that you can find. There's a Western study. They say it's desensitization. When a child or a person plays a game for too long, for example, and that game is about killing or shooting, what happens is you play it so much you become desensitive to that. You don't understand. You're shooting a person in the head in the game, but in reality, if you shoot a person in the head, do you know how bad a thing that? Just to carry a gun, this is how bad that is in Islam. The Prophet ﷺ said, if a Muslim holds a weapon against another Muslim, and that other Muslim holds the weapon to defend them against the other Muslim, both of them are in Jahannam. Both of them are in hellfire, the Prophet ﷺ said. And then the Sahaba asked, they understand the person who was attacking, but why the person who was defending? The Prophet ﷺ said, because even he had the intention to hurt the other Muslim and to kill the other Muslim. And look at the state of it. Today there is no value of the human being. And this is why Muslims are killing Muslims, and there is no sensitivity to that. A lot of it has to do with the media and what we're shown in the images and the games that we are playing. They desensitize it. We don't have that sensitivity. Or else if we had that sensitivity, even the lightest thing would affect our heart and the tears would flow easily. We would be very soft in our hearts. But these things, they make our hearts hard. Our hearts become hardened. And we're not able to remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala properly. We're not able to cry in the presence of Allah. We're not able to cry when we remember the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Illa masha'Allah, except for those people who are blessed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is why I'm mentioning this, so may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq to be one of those people who are away from this fitna. So this is what they do. They use the social media. So my teacher was saying they can't memorize the Quran, and it's true, because if you have everything on your smartphone now, so laptop came now, there came the smartphone. Everything is on the smartphone. Everything is in the pocket. Everywhere you go, wherever you go, no one knows, it's just you and your smartphone. You can do anything basically on this. All internet is accessible. You have a data plan or whatever, you have Wi-Fi, and you can access any type of video, anything on your phone, and nothing is being monitored. So you can imagine the effect. Every single image is being imprinted in your mind. It's being imprinted on the spiritual heart. And when that is being imprinted on the heart, then that image does not let you, the Quran to come into the heart, or the khair. It becomes like a blockage, like a roadblock. And then there's lots of purification that is required through dhikr and fikr and remembering the Prophet Durood Sharif, then that and recitation of the Quran, doing your salah, then that purifies the soul, like soap. It cleans the heart. Right? But the best state to be is to avoid these things, or to make a time, right? Set a time that this is the time for our children, that they will be allowed to use this, and then after that, that's it. Time is up. Now do what you're supposed to be doing. Focus on the thing. Don't just let it be non-stop. That you come from home, you come from school, you throw away your bags, and that's it. You sit in front of the TV until nighttime, and then you sleep on the couch. This is not the way a Muslim is supposed to be. We have other responsibilities. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has made a routine for us for our own good, for our own spiritual betterment. That we become ahsani taqweem. That we become better than angels. We become better than angels. Not asfala safilin, not worse than animals. Right? Two extremes we have. Just today I was watching on WhatsApp that there was a video released, and they planned the video. It was a fake video, but they spread it on WhatsApp. And this was, there was children playing in the street in Pakistan, and a motorbike comes, and two people are riding on the bike. They have helmets on, and they abduct the child. They kidnap the child. I don't know if some of you maybe have seen this. Very recent video. I just saw it today. And they abduct the child, and nobody can stop them. They go. They kidnap the child. And for those of us who know, this is a common thing. These days, many children are being kidnapped in India and Pakistan. So they were trying to make people aware. So they made a video, a drama. And then what happens is, they come back, and they drop the child back, and they put a sign up that this is how easy it is in Karachi for a kidnapping of a child. They put that sign up, that this is how easy it is to kidnap a child in Karachi. To show the people that this is how. Okay, so they use social media. Now what happened in Bangalore, when people saw this video, what happened, it plays with the emotions. Now people become scared. So you see how the social media is affecting the emotion. Now people become scared and they become angry. Because anybody can kidnap my child now. And anybody I see could be a possible kidnapper, yes? Because now the fear is there. So there was a person in Bangalore, he was applying for a job. People mistaked him, took him for a mistake as a child kidnapper, and they beat him to death in the street. And he was innocent. He was just applying for a job in Bangalore. But I'm saying the power of social media. We have to be careful how we absorb it and how we use it. When we have to think before we do something, we have to think before we consume something. The effects of that, right? When we eat, if we see poison in the food, are we going to eat the food? No, because we know the poison is going to affect us. Likewise, media can be very poisonous. Once it's in, and that poison can run in your blood for a long time, you don't know. For example, those images that you have seen, or that video that you have seen years ago, they'll still be running in your brain after years, possibly. So may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawfiq. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us people of remembrance. Look at the great alternative, the great thing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving us, the solution in the Quran. This is why I mentioned this verse in the beginning. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. That is the solution. وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. What is the solution to these problems? Forget about these things and just devote yourself. فَاذْكُرُونِي أَذْكُرْكُمْ. Remember me and I will remember you, Allah. وَاشْكُرُوا لِي وَلَا تَكْفُرُونَ. And give thanks to me and don't deny my favors. And do durood sharif on the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Constantly ask Allah to send salawat and salam upon Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. As the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I hear your salawat and salam. Your salam is conveyed to me, and I reply to your salam. Subhanallah. So we have two guarantees. We remember Allah, Allah remembers us. We remember Rasulullah, Rasulullah remembers us. Because we're presenting our salam and the Prophet is replying, that means he's remembering us as well. So if you have Allah and His Habib remembering you, then what negative evil can touch you? Nothing. If you're in the care of Allah and His beloved Prophet if you're in that circle of protection, then nothing can harm us, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala keep us in that circle of protection. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive me and forgive all of us, ya Rabbi. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there must be pious people in this gathering. For their sake, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accept our noble intentions, ya Rabbi. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala remove the suffering from the ummah, ya Rabbi. May Allah, we ask you for the sake of your Habib sallallahu alaihi wasallam to give shifa and afiyah to all those who are sick and suffering and are ill, ya Rabbi. All those who have any noble intention, may Allah fulfill that, ya Rabbi. We ask you, Ya Rabbil Alameen, to grant maghfirah for those who have passed away from the Ummah al-Muhammadiyya sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. to raise their darajat, Ya Rabbil Alameen, to give them the company of Rasulullah in Jannatul Firdaus al-A'la, Ya Rabbil Alameen, and to give them your witnessing, Ya Rabbil Alameen. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us tawbatan nasuha. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us, Ya Rabbil Alameen, for all we have done. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rectify our hearts, that from now on we tread a path of purity and a path of going close to Allah and His Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Ya Arhamar Rahimeen, wa Akram al-Akrameen, ويا أجود الأجودين بجاه سيد المرسلين وصلى الله على سيدنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين.